Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I am Ignited, also known as Dylan. I'm an author, game designer, and most importantly for this podcast, a custom Magic nerd.
All right, yeah, you've been super active in the Beacon Discord. It's been great having you around. And you've got your big project that you've been working on, Outpost Zero.
Yeah.
Is this like your first big set, or where is this?
So I've been doing custom Magic for a long time, but I never really had like the confidence of my own design prowess to tackle a project on my own. So I actually was like a co-designer on several successful sets before I approached this project on my own. I was involved in the development of Rakoa, Hyperpop, and Clicks and Island at one point in time.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. I was on the podcast during when Hyperpop was in Rev.
Yeah.
I was here with Platy People.
Yeah. But now this is a solo act?
Yes. I finally worked up the courage to finally approach something on my own. And so that's where Outpost Zero has feeded from.
You've done practice drafts for this. You're like, I don't know if halfway is the right term, but you've got like enough of a set that people can look at it and understand what you're going for, what your mechanics are, what your settings like. But, plenty of rares left to design, plenty of cards to tweak. So I think this is actually kind of an ideal middle point. This is a place that a lot of people want to try to get to with their custom Magic, not career, but with their hobby.
Well, I would say like I'm actually at approximately the halfway point. I started this project in December of 2024, and I told myself that I'd be finished in a year. So my goal is to be finished by December of this year. So I am actually like right at the halfway point.
We're going to be talking about a lot of specifics on Outpost Zero, but I'm hoping that we also kind of get your point of view on what it's like to go from like participant in a lot of custom Magic stuff, which is a good way to start, right? Don't try to knock out the whole set yourself. Participate in a lot of stuff, really get the vibe, participate in a lot of other people's projects. And then once you kind of know what you're looking for, hey, now it's time to tackle it. I need to not just have mechanics. I have to also like do practice drafts. I have to also like get art for cards and all that stuff in between.
One of my favorite things to talk about is that pattern of behavior for learning and growth in the hobby. Yeah. Being involved in the You Make the Packs in the Beacon of Creation server, or back in the day, I used to do the design and draft stuff in the custom Magic server.
Yeah.
It's like a really low bar of entry that you learn a ton doing, especially if you do it a lot.
You can also be proud when you're working on a set like Outpost Zero because you do actually have the skills and the tools necessary to like make a whole interesting set that has a bunch of cool mechanics. Recognizing that it took a couple steps in between to get there, I think is something that's like really cool and also something other people can aspire to.
Well, Tim, here's the real secret. When I play and participate in all the smaller events, I make a bunch of friends, and they're all way smarter than me. And so when I post card ideas on my channel, they tell me where I messed up, and they're the ones secretly designing the set for me. I just, my name's on the docket.
I love it. All right, so let's talk some Outpost Zero. You got sci-fi horror. So it's in the future. There are guns. There are aliens. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, there are aliens.
There are monsters. And there's a little bit of a dark vibe to it, right? Like people are running out of supplies. One of your mechanics, maybe one of your kind of like famous mechanics, is desperate, which is a designation of yourself as a player, I guess. What are the conditions for that?
Yeah, so I do refer to it as a player designation. So a player is desperate if they have discarded a card, lost 3 or more life, or a creature died under their control this turn. So the first time one of those conditions are met, they become desperate for the remainder of the turn.
Okay. So we've got discard a card, lose life, and a creature dies, is that right?
Yep.
So are you expecting this to desperate, cards that use desperate, there's an archetype or two around desperate, are you expecting this to be self-enabled? Or are you like waiting for your opponent to do something to you, and then it's sort of like not a counter spell, but like a counter move? Hey, you killed my creature. Well, guess what? Now my, instant spell is twice as strong as it would have been.
Yeah, so each color kind of interacts with it a little bit differently. In black, you're primarily enabling it yourself. Whereas in red, you can kind of get it with discarding cards, but it's the only color I think I have an instant in with desperate. And so like you kind of are waiting to react in combat. If a creature you have dies in combat, then you can get your instant desperate spell to hit harder. Actually, there's an interesting complication in previous design where I would have something on the board with desperate that cared about me being desperate at any point in time. And my opponent would be like, well, I don't want to attack into you because I don't want to enable your card. And that really like slowed down gameplay. And so I've had to actually step back from that significantly. And so the majority of the common cards actually only care about if you're desperate on your own turn.
Okay. So you can still discourage blocking maybe by like saying, hey, if you block my creature, then I'll be desperate and, I'll go Wolverine style on you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't discourage attacks from the opponent because the desperate designation doesn't matter that much on your opponent's turn. And so desperate, we've also got fatigue. I don't know if we're deep diving on fatigue, but fatigue is like tap and stun something. Is that right?
Yeah, it's I use it kind of like exert in the context of the set itself, but it's also like tapping and stun. So it's used in both contexts. You can either fatigue your own stuff or fatigue your opponent's stuff. But essentially it's just tap something, put a stun counter on it.
With a little bit of flavor sauce on it. I think that's one of the struggles of stun counter. Stun is like, to me, like a monk hitting with like their palm. Maybe like a lightning zap or something. But like if you freeze someone with ice, that's not really stun to me. I don't know. Maybe it should be. And so with fatigue here, like I don't know that I would ever attack so much that I would be stunned. That feels a little strange to me. But if I attack so much I'm fatigued, oh, okay, now we're back on board. And we're still using the stun mechanic behind the scenes. It works how Magic players expect. But, it makes more sense to say. And my creature fatigues.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And so we've got that. You got some improvised thrown in there, where kind of convoke, but for artifacts. That's an existing mechanic.
Yeah. Pulled onto that one just because it's a fun little flavor beat. If you think about like, what do survivors do in a horror setting? Well, they have to they're frequently desperate. They frequently get fatigued. They frequently have to improvise based on their surroundings. So I'm really trying to get these kind of like flavor words and using those as the core ideas of the mechanics.
Yeah, yeah. At least like set structure wise, improvised to me doesn't feel like it's going to be like one of the top 2 or 3 most important things to do in limited. It's more like, hey, you get like a couple fun decks or a couple fun cards out of it. And then you also have like the ability to make some constructed playable cards with improvise as well. And I can imagine that you might be shooting for Revolution or one of the other custom formats with a set like this.
Yeah, stretch goal. I'm calling it stretch goal. I'll consider my job done when the set's good and done. But if I make it into Revolution, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. And then experiments, this is like a token thing, is that right?
So actually it engages mostly with counters on permanents. Yeah. It's sort of kind of like proliferate. You experiment on a single target, and to experiment, you either add or remove either a +1/+1 counter or a type of counter already on it. So theoretically, you could choose a creature and put a +1/+1 counter on it, or you could choose a planeswalker and add a loyalty counter, or you could remove a stun counter off of one of your stunned creatures.
If they had charge counters, does that kind of stuff show up, or you're not really doing that?
Oh, actually, I am. I'm going to have a cycle at uncommon of cards that start with a handful of charge counters, and you can experiment on them to keep that number up and repeatedly use those effects.
Oh, okay. At a baseline, I get a +1/+1 counter. So it's like a support or one of those mechanics, bolster. And then if I want to do funkier things, or if I need to cure my creatures from their stun or from whatever else is going on. But experiment seems like it's mostly about building things up.
Yeah, I think the way that I use it, the baseline expectation is that people are going to use it to put +1/+1 counters on things.
Okay.
And there are plenty of ways for players to use it in kind of smart or unique, interesting ways.
Yeah.
But I'm going to intentionally design it with the point of like just a basic +1/+1 counters deck.
Okay. And can you use it on your opponent's stuff? Can you take away their counters?
So certain cards can. I don't have that at common intentionally, but at uncommon plus you could interact with your opponent's stuff.
Oh, okay.
Pulling the experimenting on your opponent's stuff out of common actually came because players would just kind of go back and forth of, oh, I put an extra stun counter on your thing. Oh, well, I remove it. And then it felt like, oh, well, we both just spent all this time doing nothing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then I think we have one more. Is that right? Assimilate?
Yes.
What is assimilate?
The funny thing about assimilate, it was actually the original, the first seed of an idea for this set. It was basically, I wanted to adapt like the Thing or the body horror from Alien. And so the idea is something that assimilates you, which is the term they use in the Thing, or it takes over your body. And so this is a sort of like flashback on a creature.
Okay.
So you got the creature in the graveyard that has assimilate, and you can cast it from your graveyard by sacrificing a non-artifact creature and paying the assimilate cost reduced by that creature's mana value, and then the assimilate creature would enter with a finality counter.
Oh, okay. This is like right in the middle of like Embalm from Amonkhet and Emerge from Eldritch Moon.
Yeah. Yeah, heavily inspired by Emerge. And these are actually every creature with Assimilate is an artifact creature with the new subtype Symbiote. The flavor beat for these is that the actual symbiotes themselves are living metal that requires a like biomass host in order to actually exist. And so they claim the bodies of living things to operate within the world.
Yeah. You flamethrower away its first body, and then it just assimilates one of your friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Symbiote. That's the that's Spider-Man, right? That came in through Spider-Man.
That is one of, I don't know if it originated there, but that is where people I think most often think about it.
Yeah. All right, so I've got these big, I'm guessing they're kind of big because assimilate discounts things.
The costs tend to be fairly large, at least 4 mana or higher.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the creature itself is big. Sometimes they get some bonus effect for entering as assimilate.
So I'm not that expensive at first. When I assimilate and come back, now I've got some bonus.
Yeah.
I could imagine like higher rarity assimilate creatures also care about what they're assimilating. Yeah, so how locked do you feel like you are on these 5 mechanics? Do you feel like all 5 of these, this is where we're going? We're not going to deviate anymore?
Yeah, after a lot of iterating on various mechanics, I've been very happy with these. I think it would take an act of God to change these. I would have to sit down and play it with someone and then prove to me something being fundamentally flawed.
Yeah.
Because this went through several iterations to actually land on this suite of mechanics. I spent, I think, at least 2 months just rotating out ideas and trying things out before I landed on these.
All right, cool. So we're pretty much locked in what the mechanics are, but I think the step that you're currently on is figuring out what color you want all of them in and who should be good at what mechanics and like how much, like maybe it's in 5 colors, but it's mostly in these 2, that kind of stuff. And a lot of that is through draft archetypes.
Yep.
Rather than trying to hit all 10, we're going to maybe do 3 or 4 or 5. And I think we were starting with Orzhov. Do you have like a flavor note for Orzhov or anything we can just kind of like a guiding light for what we're trying to do here?
For Orzhov, the kind of idea, like flavor beat that I'm thinking of is some sort of like plague.
Plague.
There's a new token. I say new, it's basically identical to another one, but it's a parasite token. It's a 1/1 black parasite token with this creature can't block. I want the player to make a bunch of these parasites and just kind of make a really wide board with them and kind of just swarm the opponent with what I'm considering to be like a plague. Some of the flavor that I've been kind of weaving in now is like bioweapon engineering and like intentionally making some sort of plague that you want to like put upon your enemy.
Okay. And so we've got a plague here. I guess that's like white because there's a lot of them, and black because it's like this kind of, evil thing to do to someone to spread some sort of like alien virus plague. So the parasites, they're ones that can't block. So this is mostly for attacking or maybe sacrificing a little bit. Pretty common Orzhov note to hit.
Yeah.
In terms of your mechanics, I guess desperate, hey, it's okay for me to, attack with 4 parasites, lose 2 to blocks, but now I'm desperate and I get some bonus. What else am I trying to do with parasites?
Technically, if you have no other targets, they can be assimilate targets. You're not going to get any cost reduction, but you could at least get your creature out of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Be great to hit for, they die in combat and you get your desperate trigger. And that's really, of the mechanics, those are really all that's going to be taking advantage of the tokens themselves.
Yeah. They're kind of just like the rats in Wilds of Eldraine, where it's just like, hey, not only are we making a lot of rats, we got a guy who loves rats, we got like a spell that pumps rats, stuff like that. And I think the flavor is different enough that we can still get excited for being the evil. I mean, it's not Phyrexian because they're not like toxic or whatever, but it does feel like just a swarm of evil that's overwhelming you.
Yeah. And that's kind of the complication that I'm kind of hitting, because you talked about like, oh, you can do some, sacrificing stuff. You can do some aristocrats type stuff. part of me wants to do this sort of like you go wide thing where you want to just have a bunch of tokens on the board and attack with them.
Yeah.
But black-white often lends itself to like, oh, you want to get rid of your tokens for some sort of added bonus. And I found even, in designing, I ended up doing that where I still have a bunch of bonuses for your creatures dying. And it's like, well, do I want to attack with them or do I want to sacrifice them? I'm kind of like right now in the design state, I'm in this weird middle ground between the two.
Yeah. And it's like relatively popular to have like the black removal spell where you can sacrifice a creature for just one mana to destroy another creature or something like that.
Yeah.
Which feels like what I want to do with some of the things we're talking about in this set. Like I want to sacrifice creatures because I want to become desperate. But yeah, maybe if I'm not allowed to attack with my parasites, that's going to feel bad. I like the parasites. Like my first impression is that that's an appealing thing. If I notice that, I'm 5 packs into a draft and I notice there are cards that care about parasites, I'm intrigued. I want to do that. But maybe structurally it's difficult for you to actually make that fit in the set.
Yeah, I have a ton of cards that want to sacrifice your creatures for benefit. Like I have a spell that you sack a creature and you can draw 2 cards, lose some life in black. Pretty typical effect. But I think I have more of those than like the average set does, just out of desire of enabling desperate. And so there's this kind of tension there that makes me think I might want to reconsider the go wide perspective for parasites.
I sometimes am a little turned off if I just have like 3 or 4 cards in my deck where I pay 2 mana and sack a creature to draw a card or to put a counter on something or whatever. Like that ends up feeling kind of fiddly unless you assemble like the perfectly synergistic deck. The idea that I had is that maybe you want to go the opposite direction. There are actually not that many ways to sacrifice parasites. So if you want to get that desperate trigger or whatever, you have to be, just unleashing the unending tide on your opponent because you don't have a lot of free or easy ways to throw your own guys. Are you pretty attached to throwing your own dudes, to sacking your own guys? Is that something that you really want to do?
It's a hard kind of thing to consider because I definitely want the player to have autonomy over when they enable desperate. And the way that assimilate is designed currently, there's no way to be like, oh, well, you can't hit a parasite. I mean, I guess I could make the parasites artifact tokens because then you couldn't hit them, but that creates all sorts of weird complications with the artifact specific synergies, like with improvise.
Wait, why is that? Why can't I use? What are you saying there? I missed something in like why assimilate.
So assimilate, there are artifact creatures that need living biomass and flavor-wise. So the creature that you sacrifice has to be a non-artifact creature.
Oh, it's not non-token, it's non-artifact.
Correct,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. It starts to get tedious if you're saying a non-artifact, non-token creature, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to embody the mindset of like, I want to be the flood. I want to be the horde of little parasites that are doing things. And if I'm worried or you're worried that I'm going to instead think, hey, don't attack with any of your parasites, just play a couple 1/4s and then start sacrificing those parasites to draw cards. Like that's too passive. That's not exciting enough. That's not creating the parasite fantasy. If I'm using my parasites to upgrade them into creatures, super aliens that are biomass, monsters, I feel like that's still within my, horde of monsters fantasy.
I think it's a fair point.
I can imagine just the thing pumping up, the tiny parasite pumping up and filling in the spots of this like metallic creature. So I have that way of sacking my guys, but I don't have the other way. I don't have the sack a creature to destroy a creature. I don't have the sack a creature to draw a card. I don't have sack a creature to draw 3 cards, and pay a bunch of mana to draw 3 cards. I don't have those options. If I want my creatures to die as the parasite deck, I have to be just splashing up against the fortifications of the Space Marines or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is really evocative, and that does kind of mitigate some of the concerns that I had for sure, because the set definitely does facilitate that kind of vision that you have there, that currently exists for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. All right. So, do any of the other decks want to have those sack outlets? Are we taking something away from a deck that actually kind of needs the ability to sack a creature, draw 3 cards?
So actually, it's funny. I had thought that there were more sack effects in the deck than there actually are. Looking through it, there's really only 2 cards that aren't assimilate creatures that enable you sacrificing stuff, and one is to draw cards, and the other one is to impulse draw. And so only having two of them at common makes me think that it's actually not as prevalent as I was concerned it was.
Oh, okay. If another color wants to do it, if red, I think you said impulse draw, if red wants to sack a creature, a parasite or whatever, once in a while, that doesn't infringe upon the Orzhov dream of not sacrificing my parasites, but attacking with them instead.
Yeah. And white also has a lot of tools in this set to benefit you for having a wide board of small creatures. My board white cares about killing creatures that are greater than 3 power. I have several like board wide pump spells, and so like getting a really big board and swinging out with that and then pumping them all up is definitely possible within the context of the set as well.
Yeah, I guess like having one parasite doesn't feel that fun by itself. Having like one parasite and 2 2/2s or whatever. But once I get up to like 3 parasites, now I feel like I'm having a cool game experience. If I get up to 4 or 5, now I really feel like this is something new or something I don't get to do very often.
Yeah.
I think you had another token synergy thing, the Rakdos one, right? But it's a little bit different.
Yeah, so I kind of have a fascination with tokens and +1/+1 counters.
Yeah,
it's going to be a trend in this set where there's just a lot of them.
Yeah.
So the Rakdos archetype is mercenaries. I actually just lifted up the mercenary token from Outlaws of Thunder Junction and plopped them in here.
Okay, like capital M mercenary.
Yeah.
The like 1/1s that like tap to boost something else's power.
Yes, yeah, that's precisely what they do.
Okay.
Flavorfully speaking, mercenaries are very common in sci-fi horror.
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
Like Doom, Pitch Black, and Resident Evil use them prominently. And so both because the mercenaries from Thunder Junction feel really good to play.
Yeah, I love them. Yep.
And the flavor being so strong, I definitely wanted to not just have the tokens, but I wanted an archetype dedicated to them. Here's the complication, though. It's not a typical typal strategy. You know, if I had a card on the battlefield that said, hey, your mercenaries get bigger, all of a sudden I'm no longer incentivized to make my mercenary tokens do the cool thing they can do. Which is tap down and pump something else.
Yeah. A mercenary in sci-fi is a little beefier than the mercenary in like a Thunder Junction. Yeah, I think of a big armored space marine, right? Who can actually like kill 3 or 4 parasites with his cool flamethrower or whatever.
Yeah. And so I do have flavor beats like that. There absolutely are the big mercenaries. And they're kind of, the way I'm trying to flavor them is that they are benefiting from having the backup of all your little smaller mercenary dudes.
You got like squad leader plus his buddies. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the way that I've been trying to explore this space in a way that I don't think I've seen done before is having cards that say at the beginning of your combat, get some bonus if you have a certain number of tapped creatures or for each tapped creature you control. So basically, you're rewarded for your creatures being tapped before going into combat.
Interesting. That feels like I can't do it except with mercenaries.
So you can have vehicles. You can have creatures that you've self-fatigued in combat. So like if you attack, you can choose to fatigue it. That's the Groll archetype.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is, I get to attack first before I'm checking whether they're tapped.
No. If you've on your previous turn, if you've attacked with a creature.
Previous turn. Oh,
yeah. Okay. So on a previous turn, if you attack with a creature that fatigues itself, then it doesn't untap on your next turn, and so it actually count towards your tapped creatures you control before combat on that turn. You can also tap down your mercenaries to buff your other creatures. There are vehicles present in the set, and there's also improvise. Improvise can tap down your artifact creatures to also give you additional tap down stuff.
Okay, that's feeling a little more possible now. That doesn't totally feel like a whole archetype or something I'm going to use on a bunch of cards. That feels like a one-off check.
So I have 2 cards that say at the beginning of combat on your turn, do something for each tapped creature you control, which is a rare in red in the Rakdos creature archon. Both say do something for each tapped creature. Then I have a common creature that states at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more tapped creatures, put a counter on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the end step makes a little more sense to me. That feels more possible. It was the like beginning, because the other ones are beginning a combat. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, it's saying get a bonus if you tapped your creatures in your main phase 1
ahead of time. I guess I think that mercenaries are great for flavor beat. The plague stuff or the parasite stuff we talked about is also a good hit. I guess I don't know what the flavor beat of tap your stuff pre-combat is.
And maybe it's because I'm because I know what I'm attempting to do. I can see the abstraction.
Okay.
But the cards that care about it are mercenaries in and of themselves, and their flavor, either in the art or in their name, are related to being part of a team or getting retribution for losses. And so, like in my mind, it's kind of an implied thing of this interacts with the tokens, and therefore that's kind of the. I never played Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I don't believe they had an archetype that was like this is mercenaries deck. Rather, they just had them as a support token, I believe.
Red whites are uncommon, cares about like doubles mercenaries basically.
Oh, okay.
And there's another one that just makes a ton of mercenaries. So there was, I don't know that it actually played out that Boros got to be the mercenary deck that often, but they at least advertised it as that.
I see.
whether it worked or not, I don't know. Which is maybe, I might just be being unfair, but maybe where some of my pessimism comes from is that you showed me this parasite thing that was super appealing and I thought it was really possible. And then I heard this mercenary thing and I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to get enough mercenaries that I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah, I take no offense at pessimism. In fact, it's a good thing to be aware of that when I go to actual playtesting, I can hone in on it and pay attention.
Because I feel like a mercenary token costs like almost twice as much as a parasite.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
Like a parasite is like not even a mana; it's like a third of a card. And mercenaries, like, hey, they're better than 1/1s, and if they have synergy as well, they're even better than 1/1s. So it's going to be hard for me to get more than one or two of them, which is maybe okay. Hey, having like your two buddies go along with your squad leader, that's cool. But if I need to have enough of them that I'm reliably tapping them, I don't know.
Yeah, I have one common and one uncommon that each create 2 mercenary tokens that might push that a little bit closer, but they're a little bit on the higher end in terms of mana cost. So
yeah,
it's definitely something I'm going to need to pay a lot of attention to. But what I do know is that while I do want the flavor to be, hey, you're going to primarily be utilizing mercenary tokens, how I want to reward the player for doing that is the thing that I'm like not totally certain on. And so like I could totally be ditching the whole like care about tapped creatures bit and like find some other lens to look at.
Yeah, I don't know why, but in my mind I have like the StarCraft grunt in my mind, which is like a fairly stocky guy. Like he's got 100 pounds of armor on. He's got a machine gun that's like gigantic. Are you thinking more of just like a character in like an Aliens movie, like someone who has like maybe a bandolier on but not really any armor? Like, is that closer to what you're thinking of with mercenary?
Yeah, they're not space marines. They're just kind of like your run of the mill soldier being instead of being, part of an actual military, they're being contracted out by these really greedy corporations. And so it's kind of your like down on your luck guy who just carries around a gun to make money.
Okay. That feels closer to the 1/1 that needs like someone else to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Other trope stuff there. I sort of feel the mercenaries as the defenders in an attack. Maybe not always, but like the aliens are coming, so we set up like a little barricade. And we're the helpless humans. We're firing our guns trying to stay alive, which clashes a little bit with like capital M, Thunder Junction mercenaries, which are about attacking.
So interesting. So the flavor beat that I was trying to hit is this idea that mega corporation, M corporation.
Yeah.
Our resources have been usurped. We had the space station and now there's aliens here. I'm sending you, mercenary, to go recover our assets. So we're sending you into the fray to get either kill all the aliens so I have our ship or like take our data off of the ship for us.
Yeah. Accomplish a mission of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of within this like kind of general idea that you have of like we want to make sure mercenaries get used to do something. And that's why we're saying, hey, tap them, and we're rewarding you for tapping them pre-combat.
Yeah.
The Thunder Junction gold card like doubled the mercenary trigger or whatever. But I could also imagine like our little squad captain, our little leader, hey, when mercenaries target him, he gets bigger. Like he gets more bonus than the average creature. Or some sort of effect where like I can use mercenaries to do even more things than add power. So I have a little flexibility.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You're thinking like heroic?
Yeah, like a little bit like heroic, or it could even be like a person with binoculars, and he has an ability like you could pay 4 mana and tap it to tap a creature, or you could tap a mercenary and tap it to tap a creature. Like, hey, if I have a mercenary available, like I get to use that to I get rewarded for doing that in a way that's like pretty easy to read and understand why I'd want to do it.
That is awesome. That is exactly the sort of lens that I wanted to come from. I wanted to care about mercenaries without like doing the basic Lord stuff of pumping their stats. So like that is a really good idea. I'm going to write this down.
Yeah, so we're using the like us having mercenary tokens in specific is like currency to like make things that are like really cool and explosive.
Oh, so actually one of the Rakdos archons that I had designed is Suppression Fire.
Yeah.
Which is a creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead, and you gain life equal to the amount of excess damage dealt this way. If you've spent your mercenaries to pump a creature, that creature then has more power to use with Suppression Fire.
Yeah. I want to be rewarded for having 1 mercenary.
Oh, okay.
And I am rewarded there. I'm rewarded if I have 3. It's even better, and I like gain a bunch of life and it rules. But I guess I'm not confident that I'll be able to have 3 mercenaries in play. So I wanted to start kicking in just by having one of them to help, like 1 knucklehead.
Okay, yeah.
That differentiates it from Orzhov and says like Orzhov is trying to have 2, 3, 4, 5 parasites. The mercenaries are trying to have like 2 mercenaries. Because I mean, in Thunder Junction, when you have like 2 mercenaries pumping your flyer, 2 mercenaries pumping your first strike guy, that's like all you really need. You don't need 3 or 4 or 5, and you can't really afford 3 or 4 or 5. So that works out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really great lens to look at that through. So that's going to help with my revision pass.
Yeah. And I don't think you're likely to have a lot of like. Do you think you'll have a lot of vehicles? Are you thinking like 4 vehicles at common or something like that, or?
So definitely won't be a lot of vehicles. The vehicle lens was kind of more in like a constructed sense, I guess. I think the set currently has 1 vehicle at rare. That is it in the set. So I do think the current kind of way that I've started thinking about, if I kept the lens of the mercenary deck as it was previously, I would need to put vehicles at common. But if I adopt the kind of some of the ideas you've presented here, then it wouldn't be necessary.
And so like we aren't really doing vehicles, and our other tapping thing was like we're exerted, or not exerted, but fatigued.
Yeah. And the green-red archetype is dedicated to that. And so there's definitely going to be a decent number of red creatures that are capable of fatiguing themselves for some bonus in combat.
Okay. Do you sort of think of it as like there are humanoid factions and like alien factions, or does everybody sort of have a mixture of everything? What colors do humanity live in? I guess is what I'm trying to think.
Oh yeah, so there's human factions in every color.
Yeah.
I have the mercenary faction, as we discussed. And then I have this sort of like the scientists that are doing the exploring new biomes and like developing new technology from their discoveries or whatever. And those are like in blue, green, and white primarily. And then we have the like survivors, right? The ones that are being attacked by all the aliens that are needing saved by these mercenaries. And those are present in every color.
Okay.
But then the aliens are kind of broken into 2 different subsets. Oh, well, no, they're broken into 3 subsets. You have
all right, let's do it.
So you have the symbiotes, like I discussed, but then you also have the escaped experiments. So like humanity had trapped this thing, and we're doing. So I usually give these types of creatures the mutant subtype, we tried to change their biology in some way, and now it's coming back to haunt us.
And these aren't artifacts?
No, these are not artifacts.
Okay.
And then I also just have alien wildlife.
Oh, well, yeah, that's cool. You just need a couple weirdos here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are there like cyber corporation cards, or that's something that's like above our pay grade? We're just looking at the average people.
I think there definitely will be cards that kind of like look at or discuss these cybercorp stuff, but none of the cards that are currently in the set are focused on that. They're more focused on the smaller scale, the individual people.
Yeah. We're already here in the space station.
And to a certain extent, that kind of fits with things like, if you think about Aliens, the franchise, like Wayland Corporation is so beyond our cast, right? Like they're present and they're in charge of you, but like you don't interact with them. You're just kind of a pawn to their whims.
Yeah, there's like the Paul Reiser character or whatever. Like we see a little bit of corporate stuff where he's sent to go like capture the alien rather than kill it. But for the most part, it's not about like convincing your corporate boss to invest in blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
Part of the desperate feeling is that not many people are good. We might get like a nearby ship try to help us, but no one's coming to save us.
No. And if the people do come, they're not there to save you. They're there to save the corporation's property.
Yeah. So we've got these humanity, which is some researchers or civilization people that are there to research or there to save researchers, or kind of, that seems like kind of it.
Yeah, no, maybe those are the only two real kind of. Yeah, those are the only two types, I guess, looking at it again.
And then we have sort of robo aliens, not quite Phyrexian, but that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are they intelligent or are they like monsters?
They are intelligent. They aren't a hive mind, but they do have a hierarchy. There are named ones that exist and kind of plan stuff out.
And there aren't necessarily a ton of these, like, they're not a huge swarm. Is that fair to say?
No, yeah.
And then the other aliens were the escaped, like the test subjects.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're not really aliens. They're mutant people.
Yeah, they're either wildlife or people.
Oh, okay.
I just kind of use the term mutant because, like, at this point, humanity has affected them so much. What are they really anymore?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Would the mutants and the symbiotes ever clash with each other, or they're just different threats that humanity is facing?
Yeah, they're definitely different threats that humanity is facing.
Okay.
I do think if the symbiotes and the mutants were to interact, the mutants would just be killed by the symbiotes.
Oh, because they're just too organized, yeah. So the mutants are not necessarily a faction. They're just like a kind of hazard you can run into, because there's no like mutant king or whatever.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay. Alrighty. I'm just asking all these questions. I wasn't even going anywhere. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exciting. That's exciting for me that like you're excited to ask the questions.
Yeah. So we have sort of this like human, I would say, is fatigue human, or fatigue? How does fatigue align with like who fatigues themselves, I guess?
Yeah, so fatigue is exclusively human.
Oh.
Well, actually, is it exclusively human? It's in 90% of the time it's on humans.
Fair enough.
Okay, I have two cards that aren't human that do fatigue stuff, or that aren't a robot that humanity made that does fatigue stuff. But they're both in white, interesting enough. But I have a horse that can fatigue itself. Yeah, it's a horse that can fatigue itself to give all your other creatures some sort of buff. And then I get a giant like sandworm that when it enters can fatigue something else.
I guess
other than that,
what I'm sort of hungering for is like humans protecting themselves without like mercenaries. Like whether it's, hey, some of the mutants are fine. Like, we just created Mr. Fantastic or whatever, and he can stretch around and protect us, or, reach a really high shelf or whatever. Some of the mutants being like, I guess more like X-Men mutants. I don't know if that's too on the nose, but, or even just like an elephant that we gave a brain to, and now it could talk to us.
Yeah, the difficult bit here is like maintaining the feel of the theme and the flavor.
Okay.
In the past, I've experimented with more kind of positive type things, like with here's someone who's really defensive, or here's someone who's here to provide backup. And the primary feedback I get is like, if you're in a horror movie, backup doesn't come. So like you're kind of defeating the tension and the horror in the setting by like showing, hey, here's the positive backup that's here to protect everyone, and showing them like succeeding at that task rather than like really struggling through it.
Okay, that's fair.
Oh, that's the reason why I've avoided this so far, but that's not to say it's incorrect to do it. You know, it might actually be the right thing for me to add those sort of beats in.
Yeah. If I'm experimenting, am I mostly like, hey, guess what? I made like a cool meta pack for you. Is it positive mostly?
So most of the time it's represented as being positive.
Oh, okay. All right. So we got improvise and experiment, both sort of like helping, but in different ways.
There are a few times where experiment is represented as not being positive, and those are just like our experiments have broke out of containment and are causing problems.
So we talked about Orzhov Rakdos. You had another black faction that you're also trying to differentiate, and that's like the line between Golgari and Dimir. I guess that's all the black factions.
Yeah, I guess I'm just struggling with the black factions that I think about it.
Yeah. So we got Golgari, which is like assimilate. So assimilate is the thing where I can flashback a creature if I sack a creature, right? I've got this alien husk. He gets in a fight, he gets killed, and then he comes back because he takes over the body of your friend, which feels pretty Golgari. Is the assimilate stuff basically in like blue, green, and black?
Yep.
So it's sort of, some of them are like more autonomous, like just monsters, and some of maybe there is like a big boss assimilate creature, or like a whole, hierarchy of generals, big evil monsters that you have to worry about. And so with you had this difference here between Golgari assimilate, hey, we really specifically care about artifact creatures, bringing them back over and over. And then Dimir Reanimator, which is more open-ended. I can reanimate anything. I could reanimate an elephant.
And kind of that tension lies in the fact that in previous attempts at doing my own projects, I frequently found myself not doing the baseline standard thing. I was not exploring new ideas. I was playing it very safe.
Yeah.
And so as a consequence, I'm really trying to kind of stretch what I can get away with here and try new things. I don't frequently see Dimir Reanimator. Reanimator is almost always in green-black, as far as I can tell, or maybe red-black. But like I see it very commonly in green-black, and so I was like, okay, well, if I tried something different here and put Reanimator in Dimir, because Assimilate is in Dimir's colors. But then I'm stuck in this weird sort of point of like, okay, but Golgari also really wants to be Assimilate. I can't not have this mechanic in here and it not be in Golgari. Like, that just feels weird.
Yeah. And I guess maybe the other risk, which is maybe fine, maybe fun, is that if they are kind of similar to each other, you just play the Sultai Poop deck again, which is like a thing in like a million limited formats. These are kind of conceptually the same faction, right?
So I actually have a bunch of insect creatures that are they're just aliens, but they're very insectoid. And so for the Dimir archetype uncommon, I made it a non-assimilate insect creature.
This is like a sentient insect, or like just like another kind of mindless thing?
It's not mindless in the way that an ant is. It's definitely like a predator, but it's definitely not humanoid. Or like it's not sapient.
Well, one of the things that occurred to me while you were describing that is like, we've got sort of the failed experiments of the humans, which are the mutants. You could kind of have the failed experiment of some blue-black race be the assimilators. And so you have like a kind of intelligent, like not even the assimilators themselves, but like some Protoss or whatever. I don't know, whatever kind of alien you want. And so you have some kind of intelligent aliens out there. Maybe that's like too, that's what you were talking about earlier. That's too like enlightened or whatever, too hopeful. Like there are other aliens that we could talk to them. And you want it to be more like, no, everything that's out there is trying to eat you.
Or at least everything we found is trying to eat us.
Yeah, yeah.
The number of factions to have in a set is something that's really complicated when you don't have a faction set.
Yeah, like five faction kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Like it's all right now. It's all very loosely defined. I'm literally designing off of vibes right now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think because you are still early enough in the archetype thing, this would be maybe your last stop before locking in the kinds of creatures that are out there. Maybe.
I would say most likely. Like I could theoretically see a future where I figure out what archetypes I want right now. I build out the set to be drafted. I play it, and I'm like, okay, I got to scrap Dimir completely. It needs to be something else entirely. And then I'm like, you know what? I can throw the flavor out too. There's something else in there. So like, it's definitely not an impossibility.
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking another set that had reanimate stuff in it was Dustborn, and Dustborn sort of had like tiny blue black reanimator and big white black reanimator. So like in white black, you were trying to just like get really big things in your graveyard, then reanimate one of those a game or two of those a game. And the blue black ones were about doing it over and over. You've sort of got the opposite here. Golgari is just trying to reanimate constantly. They're reanimating like a medium-sized creature every other turn. Whereas blue black with Dimir, this like not Protoss, but this fake Protoss, these alien insects, they're trying to bring back like the big Goliath insect. And that's the experiment they were trying to do. They were trying to bring back their like dead king or whatever. And instead they unleashed the, these like predator Phyrexians on the world.
Yeah, that actually, I really like the concept of that flavor beat for sure. And you kind of described the way that I've been thinking about differentiating these two archetypes and excusing myself to do it because I want to. Is saying like blue black is about slow, inevitable giant creature, whereas Golgari is about a constant, incessant threat that keeps returning. That's kind of more medium sized.
Yeah, that is a good differentiator. I would think it's probably tough to actually make like the fully relentless Golgari that doesn't want the game to go long. It's hard to keep it to mid game and not to long game. But yeah, maybe I guess like if it's just like a green 3/3 with some kind of upside. But then I don't want to sack a creature to bring it back. It has to be kind of big to want to assimilate with it. I'm kind of meandering there.
No, I mean it's a fair question to have, and I wish I had answers to it, but I'm definitely at a point now where those sorts of answers will probably come to me through a lot of playtesting.
Like improvise, artifacty stuff will already have enough colors. We don't really want Dimir improvise. We want to carve out a somewhat different space from that. Assimilate will already work fine with improvise-y stuff because it'll have artifacts in play. It'll have these artifact monsters, symbiotes. Maybe Golgari is in the right spot and Dimir has to be different, or Dimir is in the right spot. Yeah, that's kind of what your problem is, huh?
Yeah. And so I actually, the initial concept was to have a surveil deck similar to like the Guilds of Ravnica, I believe was the one that had it in blue black. And a few people came to me and said, "This is kind of done. Like this has been done a lot. You could do something more interesting." And I moved the surveil deck over into Simic because WotC's putting surveil in green more and more, and so I thought that could be an interesting thing to do. By putting surveil in green and blue, I'm facilitating the two different reanimator decks by allowing the player to surveil and dump stuff in the graveyard. But then also I have that one deck that like, hey, it just rewards you for surveilling by making your creatures bigger or whatever.
Whenever you surveil, you may pay one if you do draw a card. Whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Whenever you surveil, you may return this from your graveyard. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of now sits in that middle section between the Dimir and the Golgari deck, which theoretically could be interesting texture or just facilitates the Sultai deck.
Yeah. And I mean, people like the Sultai deck. I think I'm personally starting to turn against it. Maybe that's just me. It feels like Assimilate is very, very Golgari naturally. And Assimilate is not that Dimir. It's not that blue. And maybe it's still fine to have them. Hey, they're artifact creatures, blah, blah, blah. But if we can have one of those three factions in that triangle, whether it's blue, green, or black, something Sultai, not be quite as naturally synergistic with assimilate, maybe we have some fun stuff to try out.
None of the archetypes are explicitly utilizing Desperate as its kind of key mechanic. Like, there isn't a Desperate deck. It's kind of just used as a filler mechanic so far. And
could you have Desperate be blue-black? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. Okay. My gut tells me that Desperate really would belong in Golgari or Rakdos, and that it'd be really weird to have it in Dimir.
Let's see if the case exists. So if I'm a Desperate blue-black faction, I am the scientist that went too far. I am stuck in this lab, but I must complete my mission. I must complete my research at all costs. And if I have to throw away creatures, I have to spend life. I forgot what the other thing was.
Yeah, discard cards, 3 or more life, or sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, I have to seal off blow up this computer lab because I can't use it anymore. Anything I have to do, I'll do it because that'll let me complete stuff. I guess Desperate on purpose. So some of the Desperate's incidental, like Morbid, right? Hey, it deals 3 damage. If a creature died, it does 5 damage instead. Great. If you're Desperate, it comes in with an extra counter, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But Desperate on purpose, I am fine with throwing away everything that I have to do what I want to do. I guess that feels like it could be. Like, I don't ever think of green as Desperate, I guess. Like, green is like, this is the way things should be. Desperate Golgari doesn't feel quite as right as Desperate Dimir to me.
Yeah, the hard bit for me is that it's hard for me to justify putting the mechanic Desperate on a blue card.
Interesting.
Well, I don't feel like I could ever put Morbid on a blue card. Yeah, okay. It's not because of the word Morbid. It's because, like, I don't know if blue should be able to care about creatures dying.
Oh, there are no blue Morbid cards. I would not have thought that. Huh.
Yeah, as it stands, I only have Desperate in red, black, or green.
I think of like Looter as Desperate, like just flavor-wise.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
I don't know. But maybe you're right. Maybe the Morbid never being blue is a reason to make blue not about Desperate.
That was my initial motivation anyway. That's why I haven't put it in blue.
Yeah, that is tricky. I'm not quite sure how to differentiate it then. If we're not going Desperate, Improvise, we're kind of already doing artifacts and a lot of other color pairs. Experiment, that was like the clue token, or not clue token. That was like the +1/+1 counter, or, proliferating weird counters, removing weird counters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What is Experiment in? Like, who uses Experiment?
I believe it's mostly in blue, green, white.
Oh.
But every color is capable of producing the specimen token. Though there's only one red card that does it. But okay, actually, we haven't mentioned the specimen token.
Yeah, what is the specimen token? Yeah.
So yeah, a specimen token is an artifact with pay 1 mana, tap it and sacrifice it. Experiment on target permanent you control. Activate only as a sorcery.
Okay, so when you experiment, you don't actually do anything except make a token, and then the token itself is what does the.
Oh no! So you can a card can say experiment on something.
Oh.
And when you do that, you add or remove a counter, or a card can make a specimen token, which is a delayed experiment.
I mean, at first glance, that feels like a blue-black thing. I don't know. I guess it's not graveyard, so it doesn't actually synergize with assimilate. But blue-black experiment feels very blue.
Well, so it does interact with assimilate nicely because you can remove the finality counter off of the creature that's been assimilated.
Oh, now that's gameplay. We haven't seen a lot of that yet, huh? Curing finality.
Yeah, I don't know if that's been done much at all in canon, but it's definitely a common thing in like sci-fi where it's like, I want to find immortality. Well, you got it, but sacrifice your body to the symbiote.
Experiment kind of feels like the spot to be.
Maybe. So I have the Selesnya archetype being what I call experiment stompy. Basically, I'm trying to make a stompy deck in Selesnya, and I'm taking advantage of specimen tokens to delay putting +1/+1 counters on stuff.
I do like the attempt at trying to elevate Selesnya creature stuff. That's another one of those color pairs that often has the same thing over and over.
I feel like I'm trying to do like really aggressive on curve stuff with +1/+1 counters, rather than, I don't know. I feel like Selesnya +1/+1 counters can be kind of dirtily at times.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of positive memories of +1/+1 on as a Selesnya archetype.
Yeah.
So taking an attempt at doing it cool is a good goal. I don't know how much room there is, but like blue black, hey, we're experimenting on stuff because we want to use the weird counters, and the +1/+1 counter is a fallback. Hey, I just need my 1/4 to be a 2/5, but I really want to like pump up these charge counters or like whatever bizarro counters you want to cook up.
So experiment does exist in blue. There are blue cards that have experiment.
Okay.
Okay, well, 2 of them just make a specimen token, and 1 of them can directly experiment.
Oh.
Dimir doing experiment differently from Selesnya is definitely a possibility.
I guess if experiment is, maybe I shouldn't be focusing on this, but if experiment is in blue black, then like I can make a bunch of these specimen tokens and then tap them for my blue improvise cards.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely part of the intention.
Without that, I haven't seen the reason why we want specimen tokens. Like it feels like an extra step. But maybe I just need to see more cards. You do love tokens though, so maybe this is just the token lover's paradise.
I think it's part of it being the token lover's paradise, but another part of it though is that being able to delay or kind of like really choose when you want to put those rewards on your creatures. Like, if I have a trigger that says like I have a creature on the board that says when this dies, experiment on something. I don't know if I prefer that over when this dies, make a specimen token, and then on turn 5 when I play my 5-drop, or on turn 6 maybe I play a 5-drop and I have an extra mana and I'm like, oh, I'll just experiment on the 5-drop, make it a little bit bigger. That feels better to me personally than.
Yeah, doing that, having like an experiment I save for later, like a test tube vial or whatever, that doesn't feel like something I care about doing in like green white beat people up deck. Like, although I understand it's like an extra options are good. If I'm the green white deck, whatever creature I got on the battlefield, put the counter on that. I'm not waiting.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That makes sense.
If green white is just about hitting people, but in a cool way, like experiment does, like maybe there is a way to get like cool experiment token things going, but I don't know what those are naturally.
So I currently have one card that I think interacts with specimen tokens in kind of an interesting way. So it's a 3-mana uncommon sorcery in green that says you can sacrifice 2 specimen. If you do, you make 2 3/3 green beast creature tokens. Otherwise, you make 3 specimen tokens.
Okay. Yeah. So you like the currency again. They're a thing you could have used it for a +1/+1 counter, but instead you got a bunch of beasts.
Yeah.
And that feels pretty sci-fi. I got a bunch of test tubes and I'm conducting stuff. Yeah, so that's a lot of stuff to think about. Maybe, I don't. I feel like with Orzhov and Rakdos, I felt like we moved forward, and now with Dimir, I feel like I've moved backwards. I'm less confident in what I want.
and I think every set's gonna have one archetype where it's like, all the themes and stuff fit really nicely everywhere else, and we're kind of, oh, we just need something to fit here.
Yeah, all that's still kind of in consideration. You're still working through this. For your next goal, are you just trying to get? You already have gold cards, so I guess what's your next step right now?
Yeah, so I'll definitely be implementing this conversation and kind of modifying the gold cards based on some of the things we talked about. But so, okay, I approached this set in kind of waves. I made a set of jumpstart packs to start with, and that's kind of how I got started. And then I made the minimum viable product of draft. I literally mathed out what the minimum number of cards I needed was, and I made exactly that. And then this next step is I'm just trying to like make it a bit more robust. And part of that is I'm going to strictly explicitly define what the draft archetypes are. And so the gold cards is the first step of that process, which is where I am right now as we're talking. But once I've actually fully decided what the draft archetypes are and I've actually chosen the gold cards, the next step is going to be doing a full revision pass on all of the commons and making sure that the archetypes I chose and the gold cards I chose actually have support.
Cool. And you're probably trying to do that in the next month or two?
Yeah, I would hope to finish that by May.
Alrighty. And the Discord is the place to do that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The Beacon one? Are you also on the custom Big Purple or whatever?
Yeah. On the custom Magic server, I also have a channel. I'm posting the exact same stuff in both locations. Oh, okay. So definitely just come to Beacon of Creation and hang out with me there.
Awesome. And I think that's probably about it for our Outpost Zero for today. With the drop ships here, we're evacuating.
Can I make one more call for help on Outpost Zero real quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
I am seeking an artist to commission for a logo for the set.
Ah, okay.
So if any of the listeners want to potentially get paid a little bit to do some art for the set, hit me up.
That sounds fun. So Discord is the right place to find you for that stuff?
Absolutely.
Well, before we get out of here, I always like to tell people about other stuff they can do on Discord if, surviving an alien infestation wasn't enough. Our main one that we do every month is our design challenge. Our monthly challenge this time is May BC, design an elder. Elder is like a subtype that we've seen in Magic. We've got like elder dragons. There have been a bunch of other elders they can draw inspiration from, or just come up with your own elder. You can do elder demon, is there an elder alien out there? Elder symbiote? Is there a null, but for the Outpost Zero symbiotes? And then we got a couple bonus points there. ABCs use every letter of the alphabet somewhere on the card. There's a Juliet bonus point, if you could believe it. And then DEF, give it a defensive keyword: reach, defender, indestructible, vigilance, or ward. So your elder is not just about murdering people. It's also about keeping you alive. Did you have an elder that popped into mind? And what does elder mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, elder really, in my mind, pops up as the initial set of elder dragons.
The EDH, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, defined a whole, what is the most popular way to play Magic now to this day. So but I also really like the elder dinosaurs. I thought that was a fun way for them to, because they took something that kind of was previously only dragons and said, let's find a new way to do this in Ixalan. It was Ixalan, yeah. And did the elder dinosaurs. I was like, I loved it.
Oh, okay. So like Atali, Galta, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Atali's amazing.
So we had the Theros giants, like Uro is an elder giant. I feel like if Uro was just a giant, come on, man. I can see a giant in Lorwyn that's as big as you. But an elder giant, yeah, that conveys kind of like not necessarily a god. It's like a titan or something. Yeah, it has a different flavor than.
Yeah, so all the Theros elder giants have titan in their name.
Yeah. So we don't quite want god, but we need something as important as a god, elder.
Something almost world-shaping in a way.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see any small elders? Should there be small elders? Should they all be huge? I guess a human, like a 1,000-year-old human, might be an elder.
I think you could argue if Urza wasn't a planeswalker, he'd be an elder wizard.
If he transcended humanity, he would be elder instead of human. I could believe that.
Oh, there actually is an elder wizard.
Oh,
in the Final Fantasy set.
Oh, okay. Oh, we got what's his name? Yeah.
Emmett.
Emmett Selk, yeah.
Yeah.
I played a lot of 14 after our Final Fantasy pod. Apparently, I didn't even get halfway to Emmett Selk, so I was defeated by the Elder Wizard before I even reached him.
Nice.
We got until the end of May 30th, to get that card in for us. The Discord is the place to do that. We also just have our usual stuff in the Discord. We're about to finish up You Make the Pack. We got the micro sets, where you did a micro set, right? You're like in charge of it.
I'm kind of sharing being in charge with Juliet, but it was my initial idea.
Oh, okay. You are the micro set. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like people have to design 45 cards that within those 45 are kind of consistent with each other. But then each of those micro sets plug into each other, and it sounds like people are going to try to do some sealed or some other ways to play with these different micro sets together.
Yeah, we're in the process right now of doing constructed. But the idea is that, it is functionally a distilled down set. It should look like a set in practice when you open it up and look at all the cards.
Is it like color balanced and all that? So there should be roughly the same number of each color?
Yeah, they're roughly color balanced. I gave people a little bit of space. through discussions and after all this, people are like, let's make it a little bit looser next time we do it, and definitely gonna do it again. Everyone who's made one said they adored the process, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, 45 cards, right?
Yes, 45 cards.
A lot easier than 287 or whatever.
Oh yeah, the barrier of entry is so low for this, and you get to really. I feel like you get to explore an idea just enough to know if it's viable. And
even if it's like a little funky, you still want those, right? A lot of these micro sets are a little crazy, yeah.
Oh yeah, funky's great. Red Bay made one that only had one creature in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
All right.
And we put all of the micro sets that have been submitted for the constructed format. They're all on the same MSE hub, and so they're all available for anyone to look at.
Yeah, 8 of them already. Last I checked, there were like 4. I'm way behind.
Well, technically 7. One of those is just they are the non-basic lands that people are allowed to use.
Oh, okay.
But we did get an 8th submitted today. I have to upload that after this recording.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, so check out, you make the pack, check out microsets. There are other sets being worked on, the kind of Rebel stuff that Red Bay and Mono White Border are on. Another pitch for if you would like to be on an episode of Beacon of Creation, like Ignited here, we have our contributor role and contributor channel. If you'd like to be on an episode or you want to collaborate on what should be on episodes, that's the easiest way to do that. I kind of put out the bat signal every week or two, like, hey, I'm looking to do an episode, who wants in? So if you want to do that, jump on the Discord and give yourself that contributor role. Anything you want to tell people about outside of Outpost Zero, outside of magic stuff?
Sure, yeah. So I write literary horror and contemporary short fiction, and I self-publish those on Amazon under the name Dylan Tyler Ward.
Ah.
You can also find me on most social media as IgnitedxSoul, or you can even check out my website, dylan-tyler-ward.com.
All right, cool. Well, we'll have to do that. You had like I bought it, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, really? Oh, that
is.
Yeah. I'm. Thank you so much. That actually means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, you got some good reviews in there too. When I was buying it, you had some pretty positive ones in there. So.
So far, all 5 stars except for 1 4-star review on Goodreads, but that was from my ex, so we can question whether or not.
Oh, rip. Hey, 4. I get that. Seems like good terms.
Oh yeah, no, we're friendly. It's fine.
Buy Dylan's thing, give it 5 stars, then jump on Apple Podcasts and give Beacon 5 stars while you're at it. Just get all 5 stars everywhere.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Well, thanks again for jumping on this episode. And to all of you, thanks for listening.